Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Aaron's Opinion. I just want to say thank you for joining me today. And we're going to start this one by saying, well, as you used to say over there in Ireland, the top of the morning to you, top of the time zone, whatever it is. Anne Marie Kearney, welcome to Aaron's Opinion. I believe you are one of the first Irish people from Ireland to ever be interviewed here on the podcast. I'll start the interview just like I start anything else. We'll walk through the conversation together by you answering only one very important and interesting question. Who is Anne Marie Kearney?
Good afternoon. Top of the afternoon to you, Aaron. I must admit, first and foremost, I have never heard an Irish person on the island use the expression top of the morning to you. I think it was Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Back in the 50s or something, I think they did that to us, and now Americans and Canadians come over here and they say top of the morning, and we were like, what? Top of what?
Good to know. That's cool. That's interesting. That's interesting.
I've never heard an Irish person use the expression.
I'm sure, though, I'm also positive that there are things that you think Americans say that if you said it would be like, what? We never say that. What? I'm sure it goes both ways.
It works for every culture. It's the same with everything. Never believe everything that you see on TV in the 80s.
Oh, I do. Trust me. If it's on TV or YouTube, yep, it's true. Yep, gotta be true. Internet, absolutely true. Of course. So who are you anyway?
Well, my name is Anne Marie Kearney. I'm a widow living in my 40s here in the Republic of Ireland, in the sunny southeast of Ireland. I'm a singer-songwriter, slightly a composer. I'm a teacher. I'm vision impaired. I'm probably local, living in a small town with pretty good communication skills. And who is Anne Marie Kearney? A psychological profile. Let me see. Who is Anne Marie Kearney? It depends on the day when you meet me. But that's.
How about who is that's this is good. This is great. Well, who's Anne Marie Kearney on a Monday afternoon, Monday evening? Who's the Anne Marie Kearney I got
on a
right
Monday
here?
Afternoon, on a Monday evening? The Anne Marie Kearney on a Monday afternoon is the lady who has been working for the past few hours on a composition for a string quartet, developing it into something for orchestra, which thankfully, due to technology, I can now do. I can hold the thing in my hand, and in spite of my vision impairment, I can literally, adapt any kind of media or information into some kind of accessible format, which I definitely would not have been able to do 10 years ago. I've been writing songs and probably using music as a way of self-expression from my early teens or my late childhood, probably from when I was 10 or 11. I would have started writing songs and finding it as a way to express my feelings or kind of deal with any kind of emotional baggage I might have had at the time. Or I started with poetry, then worked into songs, and then gradually went into instrumental composition in the past 10 years. I think for me, academically, because of my vision impairment, I suppose on a Monday afternoon, my vision impairment wouldn't be my top kind of concern. I never really think about it until there's some kind of obstacle.
Oh, sure.
It would be, but going back, I suppose I was born here in the sunny southeast of Ireland. Sunny southeast for us is 17 degrees Celsius. That's how warm it gets here.
That's beautiful.
But I would be, I was born here in Ireland, in sunny southeast of Ireland. I have no brothers and sisters, so totally spoiled child. But because of the loneliness, sometimes I started to write bits of poetry and bits of songs and things. And that's how I got into the music. I started, I would have known, due to my disability, I kind of would have known that I had to study harder academically. My mom was vision impaired as well, and she would have always given me a great sense of, look, you can do anything you want in life, but it is going to be a bit of a challenge. You're going to have to work a little bit harder than some people do, but you can do anything you set your mind to. And I worked a lot on my academics, and then when I was finished the academic side of things in my 20s, I it was only then that I got the opportunity to kind of go to get a formal education in music. So when I figured, hang on, I can't get a job, I'll go back and do all my classical training in flute and piano and the things that I hadn't got time to do when I was focusing more on my academic side of things. And that's how I got into the kind of a little bit of classical style of music now. Instrumental composition 20 years later, it is coming to fruition. I think my training in it is coming to fruition, I think. But again, technology is amazing. It's amazing what you can do with it. It's amazing what I can do with it,
It is
in terms of the technology.
most
Um,
definitely. Yeah.
I would have played music in live venues. I would have played music in live venues. And that's something that us Irish are famous for, kind of live music sessions in live venues. I would have done for about 17 or 18 years. But it's changing an awful lot since COVID and since lockdowns and things. Musicians all over the world have had um, from no matter what level of music you're at, whether you're, the Rolling Stones doing a comeback tour, or Anne Marie Kearney just playing a guitar in a session in a local Irish pub. Uh, lockdowns and COVID put restrictions on a lot on musicians in every sense. But it didn't stop us. We found other ways of doing it. It was good here. Here in Ireland, everybody was putting up posts. Okay, let's put a song up this week, for to keep the community kind of music therapy. I would have done a bit of music therapy,
Yeah.
kind of to help other people in the community. I had previously worked with patients and with Alzheimer's or with students with autism. I would have done music for therapy for them,
Wonderful.
and then I was able to
Wonderful.
kind of take that and say, okay, during COVID lockdown, right, let's do karaoke in the kitchen. What do you want me to sing this evening? And literally done it that way.
So sweet, so sweet. A lot of musicians around the world. I mean, I didn't sing or play myself, but I also came from a musical background a little. I played the flute for many years, but I noticed a lot of the musicians around the world did like Zoom concerts, and those were very entertaining, where people could come up and try out their skills, try out their talent, go around the Zoom room, let people play their instruments, entertain people, annoy people, make people make people laugh, make people cry, all that type of thing. It's a really fascinating thing now with Zoom. Now I can just easily push record and create an episode of this podcast that'll help the entire world. It's really an honor and a tremendously medicinal thing for me. You said a couple
Um,
interesting.
for myself too, I
Hmm.
think it has opened up a lot for us.
In a sense, it
For me
has.
as a child, I could not go to music lessons because I had not got transport sometimes to get to the music lesson. Uh, because my mom was vision impaired and she didn't drive. Whereas now I can actually, during the lockdown, I was able to just click on a button, find an orchestra in London, and play along with them from home. So in a way, it was a setback. Lockdown. Oh no, what are we going to do? But it did open up an awful lot of things to us that we would
It
have
did
never gained
indeed.
if it had not been for lockdown.
Most definitely. You said that your mother was blind. So, and I have a congenital heart defect and a congenital situation where I have glaucoma and a heart defect. But why? So why are you blind? By the way, what did your mother have, and like what is the?
My mother, it would have been in my family. My mother and her brothers and some of her sisters would have had glaucoma and congenital
Uh
cataracts.
huh. Uh huh.
Now, I was lucky. They removed a certain amount of it. When I was a baby, I was very good. I was very good at talking and bluffing my way out of things, even as a baby. Everybody was saying to my mom, no, no, she's looking everywhere. She's looking all around her. She's looking everywhere. And when my mom brought me to the eye doctor, for the first appointment, he said, I'm sorry, your child is totally blind. So even back then, I had been bluffing my way out of things.
That's cool. That's
Um,
cool.
but they removed some of the cataract,
Mm-hmm.
and it has left me. I honestly could not tell you the figures what my level of vision is now,
Sure. Me neither.
because I've never looked into it much. As long as it doesn't ever get any worse, I've never really questioned it. I'm lucky to have what I've got, and I am very lucky. Having been totally blind and then having a certain amount of the cataract removed, I'm I'm very lucky to have what I've got, and I totally appreciate what I've got very much.
Me
So
as
I
well.
appreciate what.
Me as well. You know, you already made a mistake in this episode, which was admitting to me that you can sing and play guitar. So you know what I'm going to ask.
Okay.
So you know what I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you a very specific question. As you know, we're both linguistic people. Can
Mm-hmm.
you sing a real song to me in the ancient Irish language, using words that I would never know?
I could have done probably if you had asked me an hour ago, but off the top of my head now, I wouldn't. I would probably. I would be able to give you one verse. I'd say probably. I would say
Let's hear
probably
some of
the.
that ancient Irish
Let
language.
me
I would
see.
love to hear that.
Horo shidavalia, horo shidavalia, horo shidavalia, anisher yakantarig. And that is all I'm giving you because I think I started two keys too high there.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what are those? So can you say what the words are? Can you just say the words and like
It
what it
is.
means?
It's Oroshi the Vahawalia. I think it's time to go home because we're going. We're going to Oroshi the Vahawalia. It's basically have a drink. We're having another drink. Anishak Chachtan Haurik is the summer is coming, and it was a song that was written, or it was a song that was made famous by the Dubliners, a band called the Dubliners in the 1960s here in Ireland. But it's a song all about. It's a song based on Irish folklore. Grace O'Malley was somebody out in the when Queen Elizabeth was going around in England, you know, being high women's lib in the 17th century. We had Grace O'Malley, who was actually a pirate, and she used to go around, you know, with boats everywhere, just doing all kinds of weird exploits. So she kind of became like a folk hero in Ireland in the
That's
17th century.
cool.
They
Doesn't
had Elizabeth, we had
didn't
Grania,
know
we had Grace O'Malley.
didn't know it, but that doesn't surprise me. That's very interesting. So today in Irish society, and I'm going to dig into the philosophy with you. You were telling me that a lot of things have changed in Ireland recently. You've been noticing a lot of changes, but in amongst Irish people, do you guys still speak the ancient language, the ancient Irish language amongst yourselves?
It would be spoken in the west of Ireland. There are still Gaeltacht areas, what we call Gaeltacht areas. That's Irish-speaking traditional, where Gaeilge or Irish traditional Irish is spoken, Gaelic is spoken. There are areas up in the extreme northwest of the country and in the west of the country. It is still spoken. It is recognized as a language. You know, if you wish to, you can get any civil service papers or anything in Irish. You can request that I want to speak to somebody in Irish or in Gaelic about that matter. If you're ringing, you know, a public department about something, everybody is taught it in school. It would be taught in school up to you know secondary school levels, high school level. Everybody would have it, and you used to need it to get into university. You would need to pass your Irish exam in order to get into university. I'm sure there are things. What's the word I'm looking for? Dispensations or I can't think of the word. I apologize. You know, there are amendments made for students now because there would be a lot of Eastern Europeans and people moving over from Europe now to the Republic of Ireland, and they don't need to have it. But most of us, if you're born here, yes, you would still have to have it to get a university placement. You still need to pass an exam in Irish. So we would have a little bit of it. To some degree, what happened, I think they kind of tried to teach it so much when we gained independence in 1922. They tried to teach it so much that they turned people a little bit against it because it was very, very. They used the wrong teaching methods in schools. They used they didn't kind of use a communication method. They just taught you the grammar, and there was no practical usage taught in schools, and it kind of a lot of people found it very hard. But when we would go abroad, yes, we would be able to get a message across to somebody in Gaeilge. You know, if I didn't want somebody to understand, the French guy to understand, I would be able to say something in Irish to another Irish
Really
person.
cool. Really, really cool. That's so special. I think you should keep that up and maintain that language. I think it's important, you know, for people to maintain languages. And for me, I definitely maintain French. My father does. My mother's getting to the point where she won't speak French, but my father and I maintain. And it's important to be, bilingual. The more languages you speak, the longer you'll live. So it's important to maintain those things. But what are some changes? I think we were talking on Messenger Room, or I don't know when we were saying it, but you were saying that you've been noticing a lot of interesting philosophical changes about Irish people, a lot of changes in your country. What's really going on in Ireland that you've noticed changes?
I suppose internationally, there's a very idealistic. When I speak to Americans, there's an awful lot of idealism about Ireland. It's still rural Ireland, and everybody's sitting down talking to each other. But over the past 5 or 10 years, definitely people are almost afraid to speak to each other now. That's breaking down. Very sadly, that is
Why? What are they
breaking
so
down a
afraid
bit.
of? Irish people are very
Um,
sociable and friendly. Why are they so afraid to talk?
I think younger people are finding it. Younger people are finding it, but I think it's due to technology. We were saying about the advantages of technology, but there are also disadvantages. Kind of everybody's face is stuck at a screen. They're not speaking to each other. I was at a bus stop, for an example. I was at a bus stop in the middle of the day a year ago, or two. I can't remember exactly when, but somebody, a younger person, an older guy, just a guy, old person, senior citizen, just came up to this girl and said, "Where are you going to? Where are you from? Where are you going to?" You see, that would be nothing. That would be just normal life in Ireland 10 years ago. I would just answer him. I wouldn't think anything. But the girl literally catapulted about 10 feet towards me, scared that somebody was talking to her. That's the
Hmm.
way it's. I think younger
Mm-hmm.
people are finding um, and also I suppose the Irish traditional pub, it's still there, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be, because you see, we are in rural Ireland. An awful lot of harm was done to the traditional Irish pub, which would have been located in rural Ireland, again due to lack of transport. There's no transport system, and um, obviously for safety reasons, and rightly so, drink driving laws became more enforced. A proper, you cannot drink and drive, obviously became better enforced. But it did take away some of the social life from people who are they kind when you would go into an Irish pub, it would be a norm. 20 years ago, if I went into an Irish pub, I could just make some conversation with anybody. Whereas now people have become a bit more, oh no, what's he looking for? What's she looking for? There's more kind of skepticism, kind of, because they don't remember what it was like without it. And unfortunately, crime rate has increased here too. Unfortunately, dreadful to say, but yes, drugs problems have increased here in
Yeah.
Ireland in the
Yeah.
past 5 years.
But
Definitely,
it's
dreadfully.
in the states too. We have a
Yeah, it's
huge,
everywhere. It's
serious,
dreadful.
serious
It's
drug problem
dreadful.
right now in the
Yeah,
states. Yeah.
it's
Well,
dreadful.
that's a people problem. I mean, that's not about being Irish or American.
No,
I mean,
no,
that's
no,
that's a
not
people. I mean,
especially.
you have.
Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. You have people problems, is what it comes down to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I mean, what are some things you also said that it's not they have a lot of laws and that it's harder to travel in Ireland. I mean that it's kind of surprising. I would think that there would be good public transportation around Ireland, but
No, absolutely dreadful.
oh,
And one of the things at the moment there, we are all trying to enforce, things about, to improve the global warming, to stop the problem with climate change. And one of the things they are doing here at the moment is they are saying, they're increasing the price of petrol and increasing the price of fuels for cars, and trying to encourage you to leave your car at home. But what they don't seem to grasp outside the cities is that there is simply no public transport. It is actually easier for me to get to England than it would be to get to the next county 30 miles away. It is because there's no logic, there's no concept outside the cities. There's absolutely no concept of the level of transportation that is needed, or the quality of transportation that is needed. For example, you come into Ireland, one of they're since Brexit, they're talking now an awful lot about, we need to improve our port system. There's a port, where you can come from Europe, from France to Ireland, and they're saying, oh, this is our main port, it's going to be fabulous. there are 3 trains a day out of that port to Dublin. That's all there is. There are only 3 trains out of the what they are hoping is going to be the main national port.
Well, that's
There's
fine.
simply no
That's
understanding
not
of
a
it.
problem. No, no. You see, that's not a problem because I can go to the train station on time. I can get that one train.
But that one train, yeah, you
I
can
can
get
get
that one
it. No
train.
problem.
Yeah, yeah, that one. But the problem is sometimes I think until lately anyway, the boat used to come in and the train had already left. There's no coordinated thinking
So
about that.
basically there's no what it comes down to is there's no system of so we're talking about an urban development issue too. There's urban development issues, public transport issues. Yeah, yeah, that's really serious. And then
There's
of
no
course
coordination. No coordination.
that's extremely strange, considering that I was living in England. As you know, I lived in Norwich, and I always found the cab, the taxis, the cabs to be easy to use and relatively easy to get around. So I'm kind of surprised,
For
but
me, no.
yeah,
For me, England too. Like what you say, I can go to England. I can get anywhere when I go to England because there's a train every half hour. There's a taxi right outside the station when I go there. For
right.
me, here in the town, the small town where I live now, I'm lucky. I live in a small town. I'm very, very lucky in that. I'm 5 minutes walk to the supermarket, 10 minutes walk to my job, to my teaching job. But if you're living out, like my mother would have literally moved house because there was no transport or there is no, there's no kind of taxi service. There's not a sufficient taxi service anymore since COVID. There's not a sufficient taxi service because I think what was happening was a lot of them were using what they call hackney licenses here, where you had to call them up. You can't just stop a taxi on the street here. You just can't do that here. You couldn't do that here in town. You couldn't just put your finger out and stop a
You
taxi.
can't
Well,
hail.
because they don't
It's
exist.
just
They don't
socially
exist.
not appropriate, is what it comes down to. It's
No, they
just not
don't.
there.
Well, they don't exist. They just don't exist here. Like you can in England, you could do that. It's fabulous over there.
Yeah,
It's
no, I
absolutely
never
fabulous.
did it though. I always called the number. It was fun. I have memories of that because I was always confused as the American. I was never sure which order to say the things, where I am or where I want to go, and then I'd have to go back and forth around a couple of circles. No, 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 I'm here. I want to go. Like I was living there for 3 months. No, 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 I'm not joking to you. I was living there for 3 months. I never figured out. How on earth do I order one of these things? Do you say where you are and where you're going, or where you were and where you will go, or where you're going and will go? Like,
Where I am and then where I'm going, I think is
I
the way
tried
I try
that,
to
but how come they
execute.
never understood? What?
Where
You're
I
where?
am and
You're
where I'm
where?
going.
What?
It's where I am and where I'm
There was,
going, probably.
yeah, that's how I did it too. The logical way. I would always say, my location is, I'm going to. And then they would say, no, no, we don't understand. Okay, no, your location, where are you again? Where? Like, so fun. It's so quirky. There's some quirks about your region of the world. There's some quirks about Ireland and England and that part. There's some isms about that part of the world. Yeah, yeah.
You see, for me too, it's what I find when I go over there. Your language, linguistically, you have to change the way you say things. Even from Ireland to England, there are
Oh,
certain
definitely.
words and certain expressions I cannot use over there because they simply would not understand what I'm saying.
So, by the way, I want you to dig into some of the stories of your teaching career. I'll circle back to that in a minute. But you've done a lot of teaching of French and various things. But what are some really fascinating things that you have learned from being a teacher? Tell me some funny stories, some cute stuff that's happened while you were teaching all these years.
When when I was a teenager, I went to my career guidance counselor. The final year of school when they're trying to fish out, okay,
Oh
where are
boy.
we going to send these guys? And he said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "I want to be a teacher." And he said, "You can't be a teacher. You can't make eye contact."
Oh yeah.
And I said, well, I didn't say it to him, but I find it kind of, he prompted me on, I think, by him telling me that not to do it. I think I decided, right, that's it. I'm going to prove this guy wrong. I
Of
can't do it.
course. Absolutely.
Which was the wrong reason to go into it. No, I know. But as the time went on, I figured out that you can't, sometimes you can't make eye contact, but there's a benefit because you can actually throw looks at the student who is misbehaving and you don't have to see the ones that you're getting back. So there is an advantage to that. A funny one, I suppose, when I was substitute teaching, I was very lucky. I went to Trinity College in Dublin. which was 400 years old. So they had kind of, conservative values and traditional. They understood, right, we're going to look after you. And they placed me in a good school for doing my training, when I was teaching training. And I did manage to get a few substitute hours teaching. Eventually they figured out, hang on, she knows what she's doing. But one day, the first day I was there, and of course, when you're the new teacher, the kids are always going to misbehave anyway. And
Why not?
well,
Sure, of
when
course.
you've got a vision impairment, it's going to be worse. But the second day, some kid moved out of place, and I put three detention slips on his table immediately, and he said to the guys in the class, he said, now this is Irish. Now this is, I'll say it, and I will bleep out one word he used, but this is
Oh, it's okay.
Irish.
This is for adults, so you can
This
definitely
is the way
cuss.
he said it. He said, Jesus, be careful, lads. She can't see, but by feck, she can hear everything you're doing. She can hear, by feck, she can hear everything you're doing. So I was always very, very sorry that I did not get him. He said, she can't see you, but by feck, she can hear everything you're doing. And I was always so sorry I did not get him to write that out 100 times and send it to 100 schools around the area, for them to realize. Um, but eventually, yes, I did. I taught students one-to-one tuition, private tuition to one-to-one students, teenagers, and I would have, the way I would have been helping them in their final exam years. And amazing, they're all ringing me up like, oh, I got 500 points, I got 700 points, the guys who are absolutely, going to, the equivalent of Oxford or Cambridge here in Ireland. But there was one guy who it struck with me too. Another guy rang, I passed it, basically scraped through the thing, but so happy that he had managed to do so. And I think that means more sometimes than the guys who are,
It
striving
does.
for the 700 points or something in the system. That one would stay with me. And I suppose during lockdown, we all moved on to online teaching.
Hmm.
And I was teaching somebody online, and before the etiquette and the things, and then kind of having to answer the door to somebody, an Irish gypsy lady who was trying to sell pillowcases. That would be another one, trying to sell pillowcases while I'm teaching a student, and trying to
Right.
get rid of the lady who was selling pillows. That would be another one, I think. So they would
Yeah,
be my
yeah,
main
yeah.
highlights for teaching. But I work with adults now. I teach adults now, and it's good because I've got small class sizes. And adults, you can have, like what you said there back when you were making the comment, you can have a sense of humor. You can still forward people's education, but you can also have a sense of humor and have a good time and have fun while you're learning as well. And, it's good. I enjoy it for that purpose. It's good. uh, you can learn, and you can show that learning and education can be fun at the same time. That's...
Cool, 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 cool. And specifically, what were you teaching the children and these teenagers during those
The
years?
teenagers, I was teaching them French. I was
Right.
teaching them French, and I was teaching English literature as well. English literature, and basic. Well, I suppose up to the equivalent of your high school creative writing, and for their English assignments. Yes, English
Mm.
assignments. And then I moved on. I volunteered. I applied for jobs, but of course, once I went to the interview, they saw my vision, and they didn't see, okay, she's got to do things in an alternative manner, but she can do them as effectively. Whereas
Hmm.
I knew I could, and I did. And any students who would have come to me on a one-to-one basis realized that as well, and their parents did. They saw, hang on, she knows what she's doing here. um, and eventually, I applied for voluntary work. I was doing the one-to-one tuition, and I applied for voluntary work with adults with reading and writing difficulties. And again, I was working voluntarily for about 6 months, and then they figured out, hang on, she knows what she's doing. She's actually capable of doing this, and they offered me paid work, and that's where I am. Nearly 20 years. 20. I'll be there 20 years next year. So that's where I am now.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You said that you do speak French and you've been to France. So, what are some funny things that happened to you? Some really fascinating experiences that happened to you in France.
France, I suppose, la première fois, the first time I was in France, I went out without taking my hotel cards with me, got lost, couldn't remember the name of my hotel. Now, if you're in France, the advice I would give you, if you're in France, you have to explain that you are either Irish or American, because if they think you are English, you do not get the correct directions. So I was literally going around, excusez-moi, où se trouve l'hôtel? You know, I was in the middle of Paris with, where's the hotel? Not knowing the name. So a French man found me and he said, okay, I will go with you to different to receptions in the hotels. And we were basically going around looking for the right, and I found it. But as well as that, at that time, do you remember, I don't know if it existed in the United States, there was a thing called mad cow disease.
Yeah, I remember that.
It did not have, it didn't come into Ireland, but it was in the United Kingdom. We're an island and it didn't come over here. But when I was in France, the first time, you know, they were introducing me for their wedding, people were saying, oh, this is Anne Marie, she's from Ireland. And everyone was going, oh, la vache folle, you know, mad cow, stand back. I don't know whether they were speaking to me, telling me mad cow, or afraid of the disease. But that's the first thing I remember about France.
That's because they associate Ireland with like people farming and being around livestock. That's the association.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. That's a bit, you know, that shows some discrimination though. That shows some judgment of the French people, though, judging you and thinking, oh well, you must have a disease because you're from Ireland.
No, but it's judging. I think what it is, it's English. You see, if they think you're English, you're gone. You absolutely le francophone. If you know, it's one of them with the other. They blame the other. It's like it's a thing in Dover during the week. There was the British people couldn't get over the border because the French just didn't. They do it to each other. They just do it to each other.
Oh yeah, that's cute. That's cute. Yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of funny things that happen, and well, that's really really fascinating. And then, have you been to any other, like besides Paris? Have you been to any other cities or regions around France?
I have not very. I studied a bit in Nantes. I studied in Nantes when I was in college because of doing my French. You know, we went abroad as part of an exchange. We went abroad and I studied in Nantes. In terms of other European cities, my husband passed away in 2009. And for the first few years, I found it, kind of, what am I going to do on holidays in Ireland? I stayed. But 2014, I said, okay, enough is enough. I was very lonely and I literally typed in blind into Facebook. And that's probably why we're here, because I find social media is very good for, you can get other people at other sides of the world who have very similar issues.
You're using social media properly. If you use social media the right way, it's good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I would have, but I decided as well, I said, okay, I'm going to go and try something. I'm fed up here. I'm going to go abroad. And I went to Austria on my own. People thought, what the heck is she doing? And I would have traveled to Austria on my own. And I would have I've gone to Austria, I've gone to Spain on my own, I've gone to Holland on my own, Belgium on my own, I've done Brussels, I've tried to sort out Europe. But I find that you find good people no matter where you go. You find helpful people, and touch wood, I've never had any bad incidents. Like I say, I found that guy the very first time I went to Paris. That guy showed me where the hotel was. In a thunderstorm in Brussels, somebody helped me to use a bank machine. I was on a beach in Spain, and somebody came and tapped my handbag, and I thought, oh no, he's looking for money, he's begging for money. And I just, no. And I, got him to go away. And a lady came up to me and she said, she explained in English to me, she said, you lose the money from your bag. And I looked down and the guy was on a beach. I can see a little bit, I could see enough to know he was running along by the seashore or by the seafront, chasing after something. And she said, it falls from your bag. He is running along, chasing after the €5 note.
Awkward.
He doesn't catch it. The next guy, it's like a relay. The next guy jumps off his sunbed, runs along. What? I said, look, it's okay. It's €5. Don't worry about it. It's okay. No problem. and he doesn't get it, but the third guy, about quarter of a mile down, jumps off his sunbed,
Are you
and they
kidding
bring me
me?
back the €5
That's
note.
Anne Marie, that is okay. That is really interesting and just hilarious. Three men, three men
Chasing
chase
after a
down
fiver. Yeah,
three
chasing
men.
after a five.
I mean, they got to be. I mean, those guys got to be like really down on their luck if they're chasing a five for someone else. I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind of low.
true.
That's kind of low. Jeez, those people. I don't need to ask how much money they don't have. They don't have money. They're only
Yeah,
chasing
yeah.
fibers. Goodness, good.
But I think too, sometimes when they see like I had my white cane in my hand, and they're kind of more, oh no, maybe she needs, maybe she, maybe it's really.
Yeah, it's
But it
hard
was,
to
but there's
say.
good people. No
To
matter
me,
where you go, there's
I
good
would
people.
interpret that as just simple kindness. They just saw, hey,
Yeah,
we need to give
yeah.
this fiber back to that lady, and whatever. But I mean, it goes both ways. Another funny thing that happened to me, and I'm glad that I'm, a French speaker. Once when we were in Nice a couple years ago, I always love telling this. It's so funny. Once we were standing around in Nice, which you can't do, of course, and
Oh no.
a thief started to rob me. And then I
Oh.
turned and started yelling at him in French. You're a thief. What are you doing? Excuse me.
Mm.
And then he got all offended. Why are you calling me a thief? And then I said, well, my pockets are open and you're trying to take my money. Well, I'm not a thief. Well, get lost, I yelled at. And then I thought back years later, I thought, God, why didn't that guy just come up to me and say, "Excuse me, sir, can I just borrow some
Can I have
drugs?
the? Yeah,
Can I just have drugs?" Because he probably just needed money for drugs. But
yeah,
then the funny part, the social irony is, you aren't a very good criminal or thief if you have to try to rob a blind person. Like you just aren't very good at your job. I mean,
yeah. There must be.
you must be just starting out your skills. If you have to take from a disabled person, you aren't very good at it.
Yeah, yeah.
God,
I think
what
the
a
same thing. My aunt was also
yeah.
blind. The same thing happened to her in Rome. She got the same
Oh
thing in Rome
yeah,
when she went to
yeah.
Rome.
It happens to everyone. Everybody has that happen. But there's these different silly things that happen along the way that are just very socially ironies and
Mm.
socially ironic. But three guys chasing down a fiver.
Yeah, three guys for $5 or
I
five
guess.
euros. That's
I
not
guess I
hard to
guess for
do.
six. I guess if you had lost to 10, you would need six guys. Then they would just have to keep upping the ante until
Oh,
you'd have to
each
have a
would have been.
whole army to get all your resources back for you. I guess. That's really funny. That's really cute. That's some really cute stuff. And then have you been to the States much?
I have never been to the United States. I was planning to go United States, Canada, and then the COVID lockdowns and everything came,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never actually traveled. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get the opportunity to travel. I didn't get the opportunity to travel due to lockdowns. I've been staying pretty close to home over the past few years.
Yeah.
I've just been here in the United Kingdom, and that's. But hopefully, who knows? 2023. Hopefully, something will happen.
Yeah. I was hoping that things would get a little bit easier for travel. That life would get a little bit easier for people. But oftentimes,
I find special assistance in airports is disimproving since COVID. This year it was dreadful here
it's
and there was a
always a
lot of
night. You know
news about
what?
it.
It's always a nightmare, and they have proven to me that the airport people are just not able
Yeah.
to do their
No,
job properly.
I would have
Yeah.
never ever had problems in Europe anywhere I was ever going. I never had trouble until this year
Hmm.
with I was in the United Kingdom just for seeing friends for a weekend a few weeks ago, and I would have had trouble the weekend or the getting on the plane. Then that was the only time. But I would say to anybody who's listening to the podcast, if it's your first time traveling or anything, do not let it stop you. If you have a bad experience, don't ever let one bad experience stop you.
It's
Go
excellent
try it again and
advice.
do it a different way. That's
I accept that advice. That's really good. Oftentimes on my podcast, I like to really, dig into some things that are really going on, around the universe. And of course, what are some philosophical questions that you ask yourself as a great teacher and philosopher over there? What are some philosophical questions that are really, burning through your brain these days?
I think I've stopped asking so much worldwide. I've realized, I think, at this stage in my life, I've realized that I can do a certain amount. I can do what I can do for myself and for others
Mm-hmm.
who are around me, and that's where I am, and that's what I can do. You can take the steps for yourself. I don't mean it for yourself, but for others that are around you, and that's what solves the universe. You know, like that guy chased after the fiver for me, he solved a problem. I look after, family members. That's what I do. A few years ago, I probably would have been trying to change the universe, whereas now, and even since COVID, I think people have begun to accept a little bit more that you don't have to change the whole universe. You change your own steps to it, and then that makes the whole thing come together, kind of. And it's a shame that leaders don't often see it that way, but I think that that's what works with it. I think that you realize I take my steps in the correct way, and that way the whole thing will come together.
I certainly hope so.
Not as selfishly, but in a
No,
self
no.
caring manner. It's different. Somebody said, I think it's very sad that some people think that taking care of yourself is selfish. That's very sad. That's very sad. Sometimes
No,
people don't
and
get
no,
it.
it's the other way around. We first need to care for ourselves and then care for others. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the other really fascinating thing too that Americans don't really know about is like, how does the, job process work in Ireland? I mean, how does the basically how would you describe and paint the picture of the Irish, social system and jobs and the way that the Irish country actually like works? Like how would you describe the society for me?
I suppose, well, you go to your high school, you go to your secondary school, you go to your university, and then you are, like that teacher told me I couldn't be a teacher, and I was, but not every kid has the kind of cop on to tell them to, and sometimes they get forced into careers maybe that they don't want. Sometimes in terms of education, I would teach in further education, and I think now what's happening, whereas they would have been kind of just handing out money to, you get money, it's easier to stay at home than get paid in a badly paid job.
That's the
Unfortunately,
problem.
that was the way it was. That was the way it was. But now what's happening is they're kind of trying to get them into education, in further education. And I think what is happening is they don't want to be in the education. So no matter if somebody doesn't want to do something, there may be disrupting the education process for people who genuinely do want to be there, which is sad too. But you would have an awful lot of people still making him mocking the system. In that, for example, I had somebody one week coming to me and he wasn't able to spell the word milk, and then the next week he was able to spell the word poisonous. Now, if I can do that in if I can do that in 1 week, I should have a better page check at the end of the. So they are completely bluffing them, but as well as that, there's kind of it's very it's like qualifications in some further education things have become very tokenistic. It's like, you need to tick the box exactly the way they want it ticked,
Right.
and there can't be kind of any creative development of the coursework. Kind of, it's turning more that it has to be ticked in exactly the way that they want the boxes ticked, which is sad too, because people are losing their ability to, stand out or to be unique in their own way. Like I would have students coming to me who are enjoying the learning process, but because they've ticked the box and are finished level 3, get out, you're finished. You know what I mean? So there's not enough kind of there's not enough realization that some people need to learn and continue learning as a kind of a therapy, in the way that I would do music therapy with people.
Yeah.
The actual activity of music is therapeutic. The activity of participating in a learning scheme is therapeutic as well, for some people who would have disabilities or who would have very mild intellectual disabilities. But once they've ticked the box, they're kind of being kicked out of the system, so it's mixed up.
Sure.
On the one hand, the guy with the milk and the poisonous, and then on the other hand, the genuine piece that does there is not allowed. out. So
Oh, next time I'm typing words, I'll definitely, I'll definitely. Oh, I do. That's definitely my sense of humor. I love that. That's just silly stuff. I love that silly stuff. That silly Irish sense of humor. Yeah, that's cute. Well, can't spell milk, but I can spell disease or poison.
poisonous. Yeah, that is another decent one. Yeah.
It's just, I love that. It's
At least
fabulous.
again, you see the gentleman in question not disclosing anything, but I would have people coming from ethnic minorities, and if they went looking for a job, they simply would not get employment because of their ethnic minority.
Right, right. So there's
So of
still
course they're going to try
even
to
in
stay in
Ireland,
education.
then you're saying that, so, and you alluded to it with the pillowcases and
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
but by the way, you didn't do anything wrong, you didn't know, but in American society, we use the word Romani to describe
I apologize. Yes, I
no
apologize.
problem. No, it. Hey, you know what? It doesn't bother doesn't it doesn't bother me, but I don't know how many Romanis listen to Aaron's opinion. I wonder about that. Is there anyone in the Romani community who listens to Aaron's opinion? I guarantee now that I said it, someone will, because I said the word Romani. Yeah, we call those people. We call them the Romani in the states. Rome
It's
in French. Yeah.
what you call is very topical to me at the moment because, as you know, we've done a lot of work over the past few months. The Organization for the Blind was trying to change the name.
Okay.
Uh,
Yes. Talk about that. Like we were saying in the group. Talk about that. About how
uh,
the
a
site
few
came.
months ago, we were at a meeting and accidentally somebody let slip, the name of the National Council for the Blind of Ireland is being changed. We are changing it to Sight Ireland. And not very many people, or very few people, had been consulted with a survey a few years before. And there was a question, how do you see the future of the organization or something? But there was definitely no question about, name change. The organization received a bailout from the government during COVID, because of lack of funding, and their shops where they would have been doing retail to make a living, charity shops and things, would have lost money, and they received a bailout from the government. And then they suddenly were progressing with, hang on, we want to change the name, we want to rebrand, when the majority of people, and definitely a large, huge majority of people, blind people or vision impaired people in Ireland, did not want the name change to take place at all. So we did get them to do another survey, and unfortunately, it was done online. Now we're very lucky. You and I and your listeners are very lucky. We've got internet access and we've got IT literacy. We're IT literate, but there are an awful lot of people, older people, who would not have access to the internet and would not have access to surveys and things like that, and simply don't know, with relation to information, what's going on. I can do it. My mom, who's in her 70s, can't do it, or some of her friends can't do it, and I think that's But I think we've got them to pause. I think we've got them to pause and reconsider. Definitely the name Sight Ireland. They're stopped on that one. We have got them to pause a little bit. It's still in the process. My problem is not really with them changing the name. It's that there was no consultation given to
No, no,
everyday
no, 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 no,
ordinary
no, no,
blind
no, no, no,
people or
no.
VIP on the street.
Let me just interject a little. So no, it is a problem. Like we were saying on the mess, it is a problem because of the kind of dark thing that you said, where if you were organizing an organization that helps people with who are suffering from cancer. And I pray for anyone who's suffering from a serious illness. By the way, you're in my prayers. But it wouldn't make sense to name to name that organization Live, for the same reason that
No,
it doesn't make
no.
sense to name an organization for blind people sight. It's
Yeah.
extremely, again, again, it's interesting how we as speakers, we use words. you know it didn't bother me it did not bother me when you said gypsy, but it might have bothered someone else, just as
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me that they changed the name to sight. It doesn't bother me, but I still, as a blind person, I don't understand what that organization does if it calls itself sight.
For me, yeah, that's what we were saying. That's what, and in the meetings and in the consultations that we did come up with, and what people were saying to me, and in several interviews, it's you would not change the name of the Irish Wheelchair Association to Get Up and Walk, or you're doing
No,
something
I
wrong if
hope
you
not.
don't.
And
You
they should,
wouldn't
and if they
change
did,
Hands in
they should
Society to
be.
Live.
And you know
And
what? And
what
if right.
somebody said at the meeting as well, what somebody said at the meeting, that he had been diagnosed a few years ago, or he had diabetes and he had lost his vision a few years ago. And he said that if somebody had referred him to, said, here, go contact Sight, that, that would have been so hurtful to him in the process. He would have found that so hurtful. But they simply could not, to pardon the pun, the organizers simply could not see it. They just didn't do enough research.
No, I mean, I
A
would
few
just wonder.
people
I mean,
even said
it's
it.
an important philosophical point because I would wonder how an organization came to that idea. Like, I mean, not getting into the personality, but where do you come? Like, what would lead someone's philosophy to come up with that word for that organization? Where? How do you get
I
there?
think they have done it in Scotland. They have done.
Well, I don't
Scotland has
care.
been changed to South
Well,
Scotland.
you're in Ireland. We don't care. We don't care about
Yeah,
Scotland.
but you
You're in
see,
Ireland. Let's talk about
yeah,
Ireland.
yeah. Now, another thing that's going to happen if you
Yeah.
change it to Sight Ireland, Irish sense of humor, there is going to be very, very soon. There's going to be graffiti with a horrible word written on it, a play on words that would not. And I have referred that, and I said that to them. There would be a horrible play on words for
Which would be why.
SHITE, which Ireland. It would be a play on words, but I think we've got them to pause on it. I'm saying there's a difference between sight and vision. They are maybe trying now to go with vision, I'd say. But for me, I suppose the agency was always there. It doesn't matter. It does some good work. It doesn't do everything that everybody needs it to do, but it does some good work. But I always knew it was there. It was like the National Council for the blind and vision impaired. It was for me, and now it's kind of asking me to deny who I am. And that's the way another person who was totally blind since birth also felt about it. She was feeling the same thing. She was
Yeah,
feeling
it's
the
odd.
same thing.
It's odd.
Yeah,
So the
it's just.
national, so then the national organization that helps the blind in Ireland, in just the Republic of Ireland, do they do like a national convention? You know, do they ever do meetings? Have you gotten a sense of that organization, I suppose?
They are, you see, I suppose it would have been organized on a community level, in the traditional kind of committee level at your local parish meeting or something in traditional Ireland. Yes, it is still that way. And then they would all come together nationally. But it wouldn't be so much users as those who are organizing the thing that would have been making the decision. And I think what they've figured out through this one is, hang on, the users are here too. And maybe they want more of a say in what is actually going on and the processes that are being taken in the organization. They kind of did get it would be, that's the thing you find about Ireland too. It's not consistent throughout the country. Services in Dublin would be an awful lot better than services in the west of Ireland.
I would expect that. Yeah.
There's no consistency and that goes for everything. It's not just the National Council for the Blind, but it's kind of even, I don't know, transport, like I was saying earlier on, or road maintenance, everything. There's no consistency, kind of. There's no standard consistency throughout the country. But not no they there would not be kind of, it's only in the last while that they've kind of started working towards advocacy. They were kind of, before that they would have been more bring them out for afternoon tea once a month or something, and make sure they've got their computer system working. But now they're kind of trying to, it's now that they're trying to intertwine with other organizations and see, get us kind of more advocacy about what can we change in the system. It's only lately that they're doing that, but you can't do that with a name like Sight Ireland is trying to get people to deny who they are, and it's simply disrespectful to the people. I think what they were trying,
and it's not a matter of it is disrespectful, yes, but it's and in addition to that,
it's a waste of resources.
It's that, and it's also discrediting blindness.
Yeah,
actually, But anyway, that's incredibly fascinating. We now have less than just a few more minutes today that I want to speak to you today. It's been an absolute joy and entertainment and philosophy with you. You're just, quite frankly, from the bottom of my heart, if I was one of your students a long time ago, I probably would have hated you as a teacher. But now now as an adult, as an educated and successful blind person, I can say that I love you as a teacher, because your love that you have for people and educating people and talking to the world is just, your love shines right through. So God bless you for it, really.
Well,
But
thank you very much for having me.
I mean that from the bottom of my heart, and I don't always mean things from the bottom of my heart. So, but anyway, if I always love to let guests ask me some huge questions that you really want to know about, Aaron Richmond and Aaron's opinion, in just a couple more minutes here. What do you really want to know about me, about Aaron Richmond and Aaron's opinion? And I always phrase it like, go ahead.
Why
Sure,
French? Why the love of French, I suppose? Why the love of the French?
Actually, I didn't always love it. My parents forced me to study it. So what happened was my parents studied French and then I studied French. And for many years, I hated it. I never wanted to speak. I couldn't. I thought I can't. And then I went to France a couple of times. I got into my upper 20s. I was able to do some, transverse translation for people in French situations. And then I really started to figure out, oh, man, I have a French personality. That's kind of inspirational. But I think the thing about language acquisition is it takes a level of, you kind of have to get mature. You have to get, you can't be self-conscious. It takes a while to get over the nervousness before you have the confidence to just go back and forth. It takes a lot of confidence. So that's why that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And yeah.
And I suppose the other question I would have is, why or what prompted you or to start this show and who's the next guest, or where are we going?
Well, I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you exactly. I was the material you've given me today. I love your material that you gave me. I'm
gonna have to listen on rewind to see what did I say.
Oh, you've got trust me, you've got material. Let me tell you. What I was doing. I was doing I was doing a lot of teaching, and I was working from home, working online, teaching English as a second language. And when I didn't have students, I would be, listening to podcasts around the blindness community. And I noticed, Anne Marie, that these podcasts were just not open to having guests. And that really bothered me. Philosophically, socially, I'm someone who has overcome a lot of discrimination in my own right, a lot of harassment, and just, I've already had some mountains to climb, as we all do. And I thought to myself, I love answering people's questions. I love talking to people, as you can say. I love using my voice to help other people. So I went onto Facebook groups and I started seeing that all these blind people were asking a lot of interesting questions, and some silly ones too. But I would create a voice note and I would say, hey, Anne Marie, today you asked me a question about French. And then I would give a whole answer to you in a recording, and I would send it back to that person. And then it occurred to me, that's kind of like an audience of a podcast where they ask me questions. So that's how I built it up. And it's only been very recently that we've developed a whole, radio show, radio presence, YouTube, a whole private WhatsApp group, which I'm going to add you to later today. It's taken a long time for me to add, for me to build the product. But that's why. My next student is, you need to put me in direct contact with the person that can spell milk one week and can't spell milk one week. And boys, who is that person? Who is it? Find him on Facebook. Send him over to me right away, because I want to know. I'm going to ask him, how do I spell poisonous? I have to write it. I'm doing a dissertation.
I would not say they're on social media.
Probably if they can't spell milk, they probably can't spell Facebook. Right. Probably not. But I do trust that you'll put me in contact with someone. I trust that you'll put me in contact with the next wonderful guest from anywhere in the world. Hopefully someone who can spell both words milk and poisonous. But anyway, I always ask guests, definitely if you know of anyone else, any particular person who would benefit from coming to this podcast and having a conversation like this, definitely. You definitely have my permission to give them my contact, and they can definitely come and contact me. I would love that. And
absolutely. I will send you a few music tracks as well to play along with. I'll find a better music track, I promise.
Oh, that would be one. That is extremely, extremely, extremely interesting. That would be very, very good. If someone wants to get in touch with you, Anne Marie Kearney, how would they do that?
Well, I'm on Facebook. You've got my Facebook. They can contact you, or if they're friends of friends, they can contact you, and I'm sure I can pass along. Or you can pass along messages for me, or they can go to Anne Marie Kearney on Facebook. I haven't looked at my music page in a while because I've been composing so much. I haven't bothered with the IT side of it. But just if you look me up on Facebook, Anne Marie Kearney, that's ANNE. Space MARIE, and Kearney in the United States, KEARNEY, Kearney with a K.
Excellent. Excellent.
So
good. So good to have you here. You know, with my sense of humor, I'm going to end this episode on a note. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. Hold on.
What's he gonna do to me?
How do you spell poisonous?
Poisonous?
Here we go. Right here. So here you go. Right here on the phone. Okay, you guys got that? Okay. We know how to spell poisonous. Thank God. Okay, write it down. You're going to have to spell it next time. Okay, we got it. Thanks so much, everybody. Stay safe over there in Ireland or wherever you are. I have to end by asking you, at least, I got the expression wrong to start topping off the morning or whatever. You guys don't say that, but at least, do you drink Guinness?
Patrick's Day, we probably would, yes.
Okay, I got the beer right. Yes, got the beer right. Thank God for that. Okay, everybody, stay safe out there all over the world, especially to you. You're always welcome, Anne Marie Kearney, here on Aaron's Opinion. Next time, I'm going to set up a password for you, making sure that you can spell both words milk and poisonous. And no, I'm not letting that go. Thanks so much, everybody. Help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow.